Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, 20 takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, and with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today's episode we are joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey goaltender Dylan Wells. Dylan spent last season with the Chicago Wolves of the American Hockey League, where he won a Calder Cup championship, as well as playing part of the season in the East Coast Hockey League with the Norfolk Admirals. Wellsy is currently signed to the Rockford IceHogs of the American Hockey League for this season. Prior to turning pro, Wellsy spent time playing junior hockey in the Ontario Hockey League for the Peterborough Petes for 4 years before turning pro. Dylan has also spent time for Team Canada for the World Hockey Championships U17 team. So it's been a blast seeing you play this year, Dylan. So it's a really fun time to get you on right now, since it's like towards the end of the off season. But welcome to the show, Dylan Wells.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad we're able to get this thing scheduled after both of our busy schedules with training and everything. So I'm glad to get the time to talk to you.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be on here. It's been a bit of a hectic summer. Obviously, it's a little bit short after the long run there. So a bit of adapting here after coming home, but I'm glad we could find some time to make this happen. I know it's been in the works for a little while, so happy that we found a day.
Yeah, absolutely. But like with this short off season, like you're just grinding right now. Like it's been a crazy busy summer for you. So like how has your summer been for you, and just from getting off from that long run in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, obviously it's always nice coming home in the summer. Usually, I mean, I've never went on a run that deep, so I'm used to being home a little bit earlier than this. But I mean, any time at home is always good to see friends and family and whatnot and reconnect with buddies and take some time to relax. But obviously with the short summer comes a quick turnaround for next year. So I mean, I was able to take a couple of weeks off the ice and probably a week off the gym right after the season. But after that, it's been kind of go, and things have ramped up and it's gotten busier. So now, obviously, being at the end of August, I'm leaving here in a few weeks to go to camp, and I mean, it's kind of doing the final touches on the prep work. But I mean, it's been good. Like obviously, you just adapt as an athlete and as a pro athlete too. You find ways to adapt, and every summer is not going to be the same. Every off season isn't the same. So you make tweaks and you work around it. And I mean, it's been good. So I feel good, and I'm excited for next season, even though last season just ended a couple months ago. So I'm ready to get going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like having that like shorter off season, it like gets you like in the mindset of just like you gotta recover as quickly as you can. And then you just gotta put the gas on, and just for the next season and just practice. And so you're from St. Catharines, Ontario. So like what's a typical like training day like for you, and like what do you typically do in St. Catharines?
Yeah, so I'm from St. Catharines, part of Niagara here, and I mean, in the summers it gets a little hectic. I do most of my skates up in Toronto, actually, which is about an hour and a half from here. My goalie coaches are both from up there. So as the summer moves on, we kind of build it up. So early in the summer, I'm skating 2-3 times a week, just kind of getting into it. And then once the end of the summer hits and it's almost time for camp, I'm on the ice 4 or 5 days a week here. And I mean, usually a day in the life would be, I still train here in Niagara. My trainer's from Niagara. I actually built a home gym during COVID as well. So I do some of my training at home, but a day in the life that I usually try to work out before I skate. So I kind of base that off skate time, whether it's an early morning one or an afternoon one. And then I'm usually in the car for about an hour and a half driving up to Toronto, and I have a skate or two, and then it's on my way back home and just recovery and doing whatever I can to get ready to do it again the next day. And a couple other little like coaches that I work with up in Toronto. So I mean, every day varies kind of depending on my schedule, but for the most part, that's it. It's usually skate, workout, just all the fun stuff. So it gets to be busy, especially with the commute if there's some traffic. But I've been used to it. I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, going up there. So I mean, I'm used to it now, and it's become easier.
That's awesome, but I'm the opposite of you. I like to just get my skate in and then lift after. Like I've done both, but and like I'll get on the ice and I'll be like, oh, my legs are a bit heavy today from that lift earlier. And so like I love doing workouts after. But like, hey, as long as you get it done, like that's all that matters, right?
Exactly. It's finding the time and just kind of, I mean, I like to sit down on Sundays and make a schedule there, block out times in the week that, everything's going down. So I mentally I'm ready to go. And I mean, I feel like when I have a clear picture of what my week's going to look like, it takes all the stress out of it. And I know that my work's going to be done, my preparation's going to be done, everything's going to be good. And I mean, it kind of allows me to kind of be stress free in that sense and just kind of go about my schedule as planned. So I agree though. You just got to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Like since you travel like an hour and a half to the rink, like what's the longest with traffic that it's taking you to either get to the rink or get back home from the rink?
Oh man, there's been some long ones. Like obviously Toronto's a big city, like no different than Chicago. And I mean, if there's an accident on the main highway, it can take hours. So I remember last summer I was going to a skate, and actually another goalie from here that I skate with up there was driving up behind me, and there was you're not from the area, but there's the Burlington Skyway is kind of right on the way to Toronto here, and it's kind of the main bridge you got to cross. And there was an accident up there, and
Oh,
it rerouted us like all around, and it took like 2.5 hours, 3 hours to get there. We showed up like halfway through the skate, and I mean it was already an early morning skate, so I was out the door at 6 in the morning, and I didn't get there till like 9:30. It was oh yeah. So I've had some horror stories, but most days, knock on wood, it's usually pretty good. It's about an hour and a half, and that's pretty stock. So I haven't had too much trouble this year yet. So hopefully it stays
knock
that
on
way.
wood.
Knock on wood there, but got a few weeks left, so hopefully it's no trouble.
Can't complain that I haven't had like 3 hour travel times, but I've had definitely an hour and a half, hour 45, 40 minutes to the rink. But those are what you live for. Like you're training every day, you're just getting on the grind. Like it just reminds you of like travel within the season and just like how much of a grind it is and like how much it actually is worth it and just worth going to the rink, even if you are going halfway through the skate, just get your stuff in.
Exactly. So you got to make some sacrifices sometimes, and I mean I don't mind the drive. I usually, like I said, I work out before, so I have a shake and whatnot. I'll throw on a podcast, make a couple of phone calls on the way there, and it passes the time. So it's a nice little reset there, a little hour and a half between sessions to reset and refocus. So I mean I've grown to like it, and I've grown to kind of find ways to optimize the drive, which has been good. So I mean now I have the system down pretty pat after doing it for so long. And the first summer doing it, it was a bit like, wow, it's a lot of driving here, but it's really not that bad. So I don't have anything to complain about.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you don't have anything to complain, like you'll go anywhere for training. But I want to get into like this past season a little bit here, since you did go on a big run with the Wolves, and you also played pretty much the entire season in Norfolk. So like, what was this year like for you personally, between traveling from the coast to Chicago and the A, and just being able to just experience everything and learn a lot?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a really good opportunity this year. I think looking back on it, it was a big step for me, which was good. I know, I mean, the year before that, I spent the year on the taxi squad with Edmonton, which was also a really cool experience. And I mean, I can dive into that later, but I mean, coming with that, I also didn't play any games that year. So, I mean, the experience of being around the team and seeing the everyday life in the NHL was awesome. And I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world, but at the end of the season, it was tough looking back with no games played and kind of not really knowing what was going to happen the following season. So the way everything played out this year, it worked out really well for me. And, I got to play a ton of games in Norfolk, which was kind of my goal going into the year, was just, you know what, no matter where I am, I just want to play a ton. I want to be a part of a team and just, feel like I can do everything in my power to succeed. And that opportunity presented itself this year. And I mean, the team down there was great. We had a great group in Norfolk, and I mean, like I said, I played a ton, which was good just for my experience. And obviously, being a fourth year pro now, I wanted to start getting some more pro games under my belt. And then obviously going up to Chicago a few times, like it was unreal. That team was, I mean, a really special group, one of the best teams I've ever been around, been a part of. And to go on that run was obviously really special. I mean, it's something that you have for the rest of your life. And, those guys, I'll be friends with them, forever pretty much. It was a special group and a special season. So, I mean, as a whole, it worked out well, and I'm happy with how it played out.
Yeah, that's unreal. That's awesome. And like you go, like you said, it's your fourth year pro. Like you want to get that experience, the game experience. So you play in 43 games. Like that's the most you play in your career and as a pro. So like, what was it like to just play a ton of games, especially like on the recovery side, since recovery is so important, especially when you're going day in and day out of just going to practice, then playing two and threes, 3-3s, 4-5s, like whatever it is, and just to have like the importance of just recovering your body.
Yeah, I mean, recovery is huge. I mean, taking care of my body is something that I've prided myself on since junior hockey. I mean, I feel like I've been pretty dialed into that and pretty in tune with, how to treat my body. And I mean, obviously this year paid off for me. Being able to play so many games, I felt fresh. I mean, felt ready to go whenever I was called. And that's obviously what you want as a goalie. So, I mean, going back to last year again, when I was on the taxi squad and I wasn't playing, that was kind of a full year of preparation for me. That was the way I kind of treated it and the way I looked at it. I mean, it was an opportunity to just go in. It was almost, I mean, in a sense, like summer training where, you're going in, you're skating every day, you're getting your lifts in. And then obviously I was watching games. So, I mean, I got to watch a lot of really great goalies, a lot of great players, and, just take notes on that. And obviously practicing with some of the best players in the world, like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, all those guys, was a great experience. And that was kind of, obviously it was tough not playing, but the approach I took was just, use every day, use it as preparation, because at some point you're going to get a chance to play. I don't know where it's going to be. I don't know when it's going to be, but just I wanted to do everything in my power to be ready for that opportunity whenever it did present itself. And then obviously it presented itself this year. I mean, I got to play a ton in Norfolk, and I mean, I felt like all the preparation leading up to that from, last year, the years prior to that, I mean, my first 3 years, all that prep was what helped me kind of play well and find my footing this year and, get in a ton of action. So obviously, yeah, like you said, it's a grind. Like you're playing 3-3s. Like we had a couple 5 games and 6 night stretches, and
Wow.
it was fun. Honestly, like the beginning of the year, I was kind of getting my feet wet again and getting comfortable in a game. I think I went like a year and a half without a start or without any game action through COVID and everything. So the first few weeks, it was just getting used to playing in a game again. And then, by Christmas time and through the later half of the season, I mean, I was playing 5 games and 6 nights. I was playing 4 games and 6 nights. I was starting 3 games and a 3-3, and all that experience is obviously super valuable as a goalie. Like, I mean, it shows that you're durable, and it kind of proved to me that, I have been doing the prep and I have been taking care of my body, which has allowed me to succeed and play all these minutes. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, looking back the way it panned out, I'm super happy with how it did. And then looking back at how I've treated my body to be prepared for that, I was obviously super, super happy. And I mean, obviously I'm going to continue to do the same. So recovery is the key.
Yeah, obviously recovery is super important, especially for you, for guys that know you and or played against you or watch you. Like they know how insanely flexible you are with like how you can get in the splits and like nothing, and just how you can just lean forward with like not with just ease. Like how do you go with your flexibility, and like how do you manage to just get into full splits like that?
I mean, obviously it's kind of been, I've worked at it for a long time. Like I've done a lot of mobility training. Like I think I started doing mobility training when I was in grade 9 or grade 10. I had a mobility guy that I went to and I did all my mobility stuff with. In the summertime, one of the trainers I work with in Toronto is she's like a sports specific Pilates muscle activation therapist kind of trainer. And I mean, working with her, obviously, you work on a lot of small muscles and activating different muscles. So, guys watch me warm up before practice or before games, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I mean, it's a lot of little things, little nitty gritty details that sometimes get overlooked. And I mean, just doing them consistently over a long period of time has allowed me to kind of get to where I am. So, I mean, like I said, I like to keep myself in good shape, and that's kind of what I pride myself on. That's one of my strengths. So, I mean, it's taken a lot of work, but obviously, yeah, it's fun to do the splits and whatnot. Like it's kind of it's something I worked at, and I mean, it's good to have in the tool belt. Sometimes you break it out to make a save or a big glove save or whatever, and it looks pretty cool. But I mean, yeah, it's good to have.
Yeah, because the first time I saw you in warm-ups in Chicago, I was like, oh my gosh, my hips hurt literally looking at you just doing the splits and everything. But like you've made plenty of split saves, glove saves, and like it's a great tool to have, especially like in your back pocket. Like you can pull it out if you have to, especially in like a desperation style save.
For sure, I think it's one of those things that you don't really think about when you do it. It just kind of comes naturally, and a lot of it wasn't. I didn't work to get to the splits just so I could do the splits. A lot of it was just if you're doing a lot of like injury prevention stuff, a lot of mobility, like joint prep, and just different sorts of mobility training. That kind of just one day I was like, wow, I can do the splits, and it was kind of one of those things that I didn't really like put a focus on. That hey, I want to do the splits, but yeah, it is a good tool to have. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So besides playing for Norfolk this year, you also spent time in Chicago, obviously, where you went 1-1-1 in the regular season, and then you black aced with Jack LaFontaine in the playoffs. What was it like to be that black ace, especially like usually it's just 3 goalies, but there's four on the roster this year, and just going to practice every day, taking the reps that you have to, and just learning from like guys like Alex Line, Peter Kochetkov, and just Jack LaFontaine as well.
Yeah, it was good. Obviously, the experience was awesome. I was lucky to play a few games during the season too. So just being around those guys, I was pretty comfortable with them already. I had a relationship with a lot of them, and walking in there just kind of it felt normal again, like going to see the guys. And for me, the opportunity to back up the first couple rounds of the playoffs was really cool. Obviously, like I said, being a part of that team was special in its own right. But I mean, being on the bench for that and getting to be a part of that was awesome. And then, when we had the 4 of us there, it was great. Like all 4 guys pushed each other. All 4 guys were super good guys. I mean, Jack and I have known Jack since probably grade 10. We go back. We went to a couple Hockey Canada camps together, and he's my age from Toronto, so we kind of went through the minor hockey system together. And it was fun to have him there, as the 3-4. It was fun to just kind of bounce ideas off each other and push each other in skates. And obviously we got to work with Stan a ton, which was great, and Jason Mazzotti. So I mean, that experience was great. It was invaluable, and obviously going to every game and having eyes on that team was awesome. Like being a part of that run, those teams don't come around too often, and when they do, you really try to soak it all up. So the experience was great in Chicago. I have nothing bad to say about that organization. It was first class.
Yeah, and just working with Stan, with like for me personally, like he's all about like simple stuff, and like he's a great coach. Like what did you learn from Stan Mazzotti that you're able to take into this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. There's a lot of simple stuff. I think at this point, as when you're like, for me at least, going into my 5th year pro now, I've kind of started to learn what works and what doesn't work, and what I need to do more of in my game, what I need to do less of. And with Stan, a lot of it was just simplifying and maintaining. So I mean, for me, the prep works in the summer, and then I go into the season, and you kind of have that base, you have that foundation, and then during the season it doesn't really change. Like I like to hammer a lot of foundational stuff, a lot of simple stuff that may seem overly simple, but I mean, for me, it's a lot of open shots, seeing pucks, making sure I'm square on pucks. I kind of have three little mantras I write on my gear that I kind of stick to all year, and it's set, patience, down on pucks. It kind of translates to all facets of the game, and those are kind of the three things I try to maintain during the year. Just, making sure I'm set and my feet are set on pucks, making sure I'm coming down on pucks and tracking them well. And then just patience, whether that's on my feet, beating passes, breakaways, whatever it may be. So for me, I don't try to, recreate the wheel too much during the year,
Yeah.
especially. It's more so just tweaking little things and maintaining. So obviously if you see things coming up repeatedly through video, then you kind of got to bear down a bit and work on those things. But for me, the simplicity is the key. So
Yeah, it's all about being simple. Like when you put it into like perspective, like you just gotta stop the puck and everything is just, especially what Stan preaches, like just simplicity and all that, and just doing things over and over, staying relaxed, staying big, and like that all like facets go into the game. Like when you're actually in like a game, like you just rely on all those aspects that you were taught, and like you're just like, wow, this is actually like really simple, but like very effective.
exactly. I think the more you can simplify it and kind of find what works for you, the more confidence that you can just build in your own game, the more genuine
Yeah.
confidence you can build in your own game, and you just feel good about it. It's easier to access that flow state and to kind of just play naturally and flowy and not overly robotic. So that's kind of what I found for myself when I try to overcomplicate things or overthink different things and dive too much into the mechanics of it. It's when I start to struggle. So for me, it's just keep it simple and have fun. So that's been it's been a big stepping stone for me.
Yeah, exactly. And like you've got a big opportunity this year going into the season with the Rockford IceHogs. Like how excited are you to begin your step with the Rockford IceHogs and just get to camp?
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's going to be obviously a great experience. I've been in a few different organizations now, so it's always cool to see how everywhere kind of runs it and does things differently. And yeah, obviously the beginning of the hockey season is always really exciting. You're going into camp. There's a little bit of nerves. You're happy. You're excited, and I'm ready to get going here. So it's going to be fun. And I've heard good things about the organization. Obviously, the Blackhawks just down the highway. We'd hear a lot about them when I was with the Wolves. So I mean, it's cool to join that organization and just see what they're all about. But it'll be a great opportunity, and I've heard nothing but good things. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I definitely can't wait to see you playing Rockford and get see you on the ice when the Wolves play you guys for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited as well. That'll be fun.
Yeah, exactly. But like you're talking about before, like this past season, you spent time on the NHL Taxi Squad with the Edmonton Oilers. Like, what was your time with the Oilers on the Taxi Squad, especially like when you're not, like you said, you didn't start a game for a year and a half. So just like being able to just learn that lifestyle and what it takes to get to that NHL level.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, obviously, every NHL team is just filled with elite players, so you can really, be a sponge there and soak up information and just, what guys do in their daily routine and how they find their success in different ways. Because I think every player is different and everybody has different triggers that make themselves successful. So for me, it was cool just be around that every day. See how guys operate and what they do and game days, just different things, routines, what it might be. So I mean, it was a really good experience for me. Obviously, it was a crazy year for everybody. Like we were pretty locked down, in a bubble. We were in Canada there, so spent a ton of time at the rink, and that was pretty much all we did. We couldn't do much else. So, I mean, it was good in a sense of I got a ton of prep work in, and I made some huge strides in my game. I spent a ton of time with the goalie coach there, Dustin Schwartz, which was really valuable for me. And then obviously, like I said earlier, being around those guys it's an experience you can't really recreate unless you're there. So it was awesome, and I'm very very grateful for my time on the Taxi Squad.
Yeah, and you spend a lot of times with great players like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Mike Smith, Mikko Koskinen, and like you said, you're a sponge at that point. You're just taking everything in. But like, how good is Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's shot, especially like since they can probably pull like the slightest edge on you and just light you up.
Yeah, no, those are the best of the best. It's kind of they don't come around, too often, but when they do, like those are elite players, and you have those two guys coming down on practice. That's when you're really like, oh no, what are they gonna do here? Because you really never know. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like I said before, we'd go to all the games, we'd travel with the team, and we'd be sitting up in the box watching the games, and some of the plays that those guys would make, you're just scratching your head. I didn't even see that from the press box, and these guys are are making these plays from the back of their head. So it's crazy. Like they're unbelievable players and really good humans too, which is obviously important. Like they treat everybody super well, and Connor's a great leader in there. So I really felt welcomed into the team and a part of the team, and it was great. So nothing bad
Yeah.
to say that.
Yeah. So what do you learn when when those two are coming down on you in practice and like just like switching the angles and everything? Like what do you take away from just being able to practice with those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think really for a goalie, you really don't change too much. I think your foundation comes into
Yeah.
to perspective a lot more. That's really when you got to hunker down. Like for me, the three keys I kind of stick to, like set patience down on pucks. You really have to dial in on those, especially with those guys. I mean, if you're not patient, they're going to undress you. If you're not set, they're going to find a hole. And if you're not coming down on pucks, they're going to find a hole there somewhere to score. So, I mean, it's really just being in tune with those things. But obviously, those guys are the best players in the world. So sometimes you got to tip your cap, and sometimes they're going to make a nice shot or a nice move, and you just gotta rebound and stop the next one. So I mean, yeah, for me, it was really just simplifying it, not overthinking it because it was the best players in the
Yeah.
world, but just really simplifying, bearing down, and like you said, just stopping the puck.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main job of the goaltender is to stop the puck, but everything comes down to that foundation and what you build, especially like in the off season, just like building like the fundamentals again and making it like not motor skill, but like like memory, like your memory. What's the word? Like it's just muscle memory at that point. And you're just able to just do whatever you can to stop that puck.
Exactly, and that's where that off-season prep comes in huge, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm, I battle a lot. I compete. Like those are probably my strongest traits as a goalie. My skating and a lot of my foundation work has come down to just open shots and being set and coming down on releases, tracking pucks, and making the first save and becoming an elite first save goalie. I think if you watch around the NHL, like those guys aren't getting beat too much with open shots.
Yeah.
Like they're making the first save, and then the guys that can battle and recover and make the crazy save. Like you look at Vasilevsky, he doesn't get beat on open shots, but he battles and he can pull something out of his hat pretty quick. So I think for me, that's my strongest trait would just be my battle and compete level and the ability to kind of make the outside the box save. So the foundation has been huge for me just to work on, my tracking, my open shots, making the first save. And I think when you have that much confidence in the first save, then you kind of, it helps have that genuine confidence of, I'm not going to get beat tonight. Like this is, just get in position and stop the puck.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And like I love that mindset, like everything you learn from those situations like that. So then the previous 3 years before you were on the taxi squad, you were obviously in the Oilers organization for the Bakersfield Condors and the Wichita Thunder. So like what were those first 3 years of professional hockey like, and just getting that foot in the door and then getting comfortable with just being a professional?
They were good. I mean, I think pro hockey really opens your eyes. It's a completely new experience. Obviously, coming from junior, where you have a billet family, and you're basically it's like you're living with your parents still. Like you
Yeah.
get taken care of everything, and then your first year pro, you're living on your own. You have another guy that you're there with, and you're cooking dinners for yourself. You're doing a lot of things that you maybe didn't have to do before. So I mean, life away from the rink changes a lot, just learning to adapt and learning to handle that. And obviously the hockey changes too. Like I came in as a 20-year-old and, instead of playing with 16 to 20-year-olds, you're now playing with grown men and your teammates have families and the dynamic's a little different. So it takes some getting used to for sure. But my first year was a really good experience for me. Myself and Stuart Skinner, who's now with the Edmonton Oilers, came in kind of to our first year pro together, and he's one of my best buddies. So it was nice to have somebody else going through the same experience with me. I know we were both in Wichita to start the year. Our apartments were side by side, and we hung out all the time, which was cool. There was a group of four of us young guys that kind of stuck together and did everything together. So it kind of made the learning experience a little bit easier. But from a hockey perspective, it was good. Like I got to play a lot of games that year too. Stu and I kind of jumped back and forth between Bakersfield and Wichita. We kind of had a rotation going every couple months. So I think I want to say I played 25 games in the East Coast League in my first year and about 12 in the American League, which was really good to get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
I came in and, I had a really good stretch from November to December. I got called up. I kind of kept it going and got to play a lot up there. And then, it was just kind of switching back and forth and getting those the game experience in and getting reps in. And for me, that was really good. And then second year was good. I spent a lot of the year in Bakersfield. That was more of a learning experience for me. I didn't play as much. I was kind of backing up most of the time, which obviously is tough when you're coming out of junior and you're a starter and you're not really used to it. So that was the first time since probably my first and second year junior where I, wasn't playing regularly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when you really find, the little things that you got to work on in your game, and you do a lot of the maintenance work and a lot of that prep work so that, when you do get an opportunity to play, you're ready to go. And that's kind of, it carried into the taxi squad year, obviously, where I didn't get to play that season. So a lot of time for me was just, bearing down and preparing for when I do get an opportunity, and kind of treating every day with a growth mindset and, a willingness to learn and a willingness to be better and a willingness to be a good teammate too. And, support the guys and be happy for everybody's success. And that was, it really helps you mature as a person. Obviously I was 22 at the time. So, now being 24, playing 4 years pro, I think I've been through a lot of different experiences that have kind of shaped me into who I am today, and helped shape my mindset into what it is now. So all those experiences looking back have been super beneficial for me and where I'm at now.
Yeah, and all these experiences and everything like you face like shapes like how much growth you've had over the course of your career so far, and like matured as a person. And like especially like with the realities of professional hockey, especially like with going from the coast to the A and then back down, like a lot of people just like get down about that. And like, so like how did you take that, like when you got brought into professional hockey, and just having that reality of going up and down like every couple months?
It was an adjustment for sure. Like, I mean, obviously it's not easy. I think you hear about it a lot before you play pro. Guys are talking about going up and down, and you really don't understand what it means until you go through it. So, I mean, as a young guy, it was my first experience learning just how quickly things change. Guys are always saying, be ready. You never know what can happen day in and day out. And when you're playing junior hockey, you go to camp at the beginning of the year and you're there for the season. That's where you're playing, unless you get traded or whatnot. And going to pro, I think Stu and I went up and down. I don't even know how many times. We were just going up and down all the time. And I mean, even the past 3 years, somebody gets hurt, injuries happen, a guy gets called up, you're going up, and things change and, the snap of a finger. And you always really do have to be prepared. You never know. And that was kind of my mindset this year in Norfolk. It was, you never really know what's going to happen. Just be ready to go. Like, you could start for the Admirals tonight, and then tomorrow night you could be on, the Wolves roster. So things change quickly. You got to learn to adapt. And I mean, you definitely have to learn how to be a good packer. I think that's what I've learned a lot. I always have a little suitcase packed just in case I'm going up. And, I've been called up from a road trip before with not a lot of stuff on me. And that's kind of what made me, dial into packing. And I'm like, okay, you always got to be prepared every road trip you go on. You never know if you're getting called up or not. So yeah, you really never know when it's going to happen. And it's definitely an adjustment, but I think as you go on, I wouldn't say it gets easier, but you definitely know how to handle it better.
Yeah, it's always a chain reaction. You never know when you could get called up or when you get sent down. You just gotta be ready whenever.
Exactly.
So then you go into your first game as a professional. Like what are your nerves like? Like what are the emotions going into that first game? And then when you did get your first win, like what was it like to get that first W out of the way?
Yeah, so I kind of got a little bit of an interesting story about that one. But so I finished my fourth year junior in Peterborough. The year didn't end great. We missed the playoffs, and I ended up getting the opportunity to go up to Bakersfield to be the number 3 there. And I went and I spent 3 to 4 weeks up there, and then Wichita at the time, who was their affiliate, was going into the playoffs, and one of their goalies got hurt. So that was my first time dealing with getting sent down. I guess, I was just there on a tryout. I was just there for the experience, and they ended up saying, hey, we're going to send you down to Wichita. You're going to be backing up for the playoffs. You might be able to play, kind of get your first taste of pro hockey. So I went down, and I was the second goalie there with Shane Starrett, and the last weekend of the season, I ended up getting to start my first pro game in Colorado, who ended up winning the league that year. And going into it, I was obviously excited. I was super nervous. It was kind of, one of those things where you're told, hey, you're going in, like you're going to play tomorrow night. And, I was just up there on a tryout, expecting to kind of soak it all in and get the experience. And then I was like, okay, let's do it and let's go. I knew that I had prepared and I'd put the work in, and it was just about going out and executing. And things didn't really go my way. I ended up getting pulled actually in my first pro game. So it was it was an eye-opening experience. We ended up, I think I let in 3-on-10 or 3-on-15 or something. So if you go to my elite prospects, the numbers don't look too hot from that game. But I mean, obviously every step along the way, whether it's a good experience, bad experience, good outcome, bad outcome, kind of shapes who you are. And I mean, obviously that was kind of lit a fire underneath me for the summer after that season. That was the only start I got. And obviously it was upsetting, it was frustrating, and kind of pushed me to work that much harder in the summer. And then, the following season, I was able to get my first pro win, or my first American League win, in Bakersfield. We were playing against Stockton, and we got a 1-0 win in December, I believe it was. So obviously after, that tough first start, a little bit of a tough start to the season, that was a really good experience. And after going through that, I think it made it feel that much better. My first win being a shutout at the same time. So I think, yeah, I mean, it definitely lights a fire under you having a debut like that. But I mean, you kind of just learn from it and take some positives that you can. At the end of the day, I got to play my first pro game. I was 19 years old. It's a great opportunity, great experience you have with you for the rest of your life. So yeah, I got no complaints about it, but obviously it didn't shake out ideally for me, but that's hockey sometimes.
Yeah, it always seems like when guys struggle at the beginning, like their first win is more than a lot of the times a shutout, and like you just hit you just get the shutout and you get the win. Like you're just hitting two birds at that point. You're just that's exciting.
Yeah, it is for sure. And it was another one of those days where, I was down in Wichita and I ended up getting called up on a Thursday night, and we had a game Friday night that, I flew in that morning, came in, backed up, and then drove to Stockton after the game. And it was one of those, hey, you're playing today. Like I found out the afternoon of, and you know what, that's when you just kind of shut your brain off and you go play. You kind of, like for me, I was confident in the prep that I did. I was confident in my game. I knew I was doing all the right things. So at that point, I mean, it's just go time. You just go and you play your game and you do what you've been doing all year. So, I mean, it was one of those games where you just find the flow state and you just go with it. So obviously I got the result, but I think I was just happy with how I prepared myself leading into that. So it was a cool experience. I think I got the puck sitting over here somewhere. So.
That's unreal, and you get to keep the puck, first win, first shutout. Nothing better than that.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then in 2016, you get drafted to the Edmonton Oilers in the 5th round, 123rd overall. So what was your draft story like, and like where were you when you did get drafted?
Yeah, so I was actually at the draft that year. The draft was in Buffalo, which obviously being from Niagara, it's a 30-minute drive. So
Yeah.
I was able to go over there with friends and family, my parents obviously, and kind of soak up the experience with them, which was cool. And being drafted, it's one of the best days of my life still. I mean, just hearing your name called, going up, getting the jersey, meeting the organization, the staff. It's something that I definitely won't forget. I mean, I had a lot of friends there as well that were getting drafted. I was coming off, I played under 18s that past summer, and I had played under 17s the summer before that. So I was lucky enough to play with some really special players from those teams. And it was a cool day seeing all my friends get picked. I was lucky enough to get picked, and obviously it was quick turnaround too. Like we had development camp a few days after, so you soak it up for a couple hours. And I went back home from the draft, drove home, hopped in my dad's car, and it's 30-minute drive, and I was at home and had a family party there, and got to enjoy it with everybody that's close to me here. And then right after that, pretty much hopped on a plane and was out in Edmonton for 2 weeks. So it was a really cool experience. I think, playing junior those summers really flew by. It was kind of a lot happening at once, whether it was the draft, the combine, the under 18 camps, under 20 camps, under 17 camps. That, at the time, it's, you're young, and it kind of just flies by. But looking back, all those opportunities were really special experiences, and I'm very grateful for them. So
Yeah, that's a story you live to hear, and like that's awesome that like you were actually at the draft, got to hear your name get called in the arena. Like there's no better feeling than that. I there's no words to describe it.
yeah, exactly. I think there's so much unknown going into a day like that, where
Yeah.
I didn't really know where I was going to get picked, when I was going to get picked, what round, if I was going to get picked. There's obviously a lot of uncertainty that hangs over things, a lot of nervousness, and it's kind of a roller coaster of emotions, I guess. So, those same friends that were there with me at the draft are the same ones that were kind of supporting me before the draft when, you were nervous and you didn't feel as great. So, I mean, once it was all said and done, it was great, and yeah, it was awesome feeling.
Yeah, that's unreal. And you get to go throughout the Edmonton Oilers organization for 3 years, then play in the Hurricanes organization for a year, and now in the Chicago organization for a year, maybe even more. And then it's like throughout like your 4 official like full pro seasons so far, like you've obviously learned about like nutrition, recovery. Friend of the show, Jamie Phillips. Like I know you're a huge like Victorium performance guy. So what has that been like for you, and just learn like nutrition, especially like as a goalie and a hockey player?
It's been huge. I think obviously like recovery, as we said earlier, is key, and I think nutrition plays a large part in that. Um, you want to feel good as an athlete. You want to do everything
Yeah.
in your power off the ice to feel as good as you can when you get on the ice. And that's one of those little things that, some people might overlook and, might not put too much stock into. And I would always say that I've ate, clean and I've fueled my body well, but I think working with Philly's been awesome. He kind of, he changes it up for you, gives you some different recipes and things to try. So, I mean, over the past couple of years of working with him, it's kind of opened my eyes to, I actually really like cooking now, and it's something to do. It's almost like a pastime in a sense, especially
Yeah.
during the season. You have practice and a workout, and you have a lot of free time. So, I mean, for me, like I got big into, cooking different things for dinner and different lunches and breakfast. So it's been great, and it helps me just stay dialed in. I usually dedicate that one day of the week, like I was telling you, to plan my week out, and that's also the day that I do all my cooking. So I try to have food, all my meals ready to go. So obviously my schedule is a little bit hectic here with driving all the time and training. So that's been one thing that's helped with my recovery and helped with my performance, is just how I felt off the ice and how my body's felt. So you kind of get out of it what you put into it. And I
Yeah.
mean, I've learned that through working with Philly, and it's been great. So I feel really good and in a good
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah, and Philly does a great job with everything he does at Victorium Performance, and like he's just an unreal guy, and like he's not afraid to help anyone. Like if anyone wants help, like just message him on Instagram or whatever, and he'll be there right away and respond.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah, and he also said you're a big CrossFit guy. So what went into the CrossFit, and like how do you get into that?
Yeah, so I don't personally do CrossFit. It's kind of weird. I've never done CrossFit. I've never tried it, anything like that. But I love Matt Frazier. I think he's a great, role model guy to look up to. Like I said before, I really pride myself in taking care of my body, and I'm really passionate about training in the summer. Like it's kind of a second passion. It's something
Yeah.
that I would consider after hockey, like getting into the strength and conditioning side of things, and it's intriguing to me. So seeing guys like the CrossFit athletes, guys and girls that push themselves to their absolute max and do it repeatedly, I think it's a really good model to look at. The way they dial in their nutrition, their recovery, their sleep. That's really what put me onto it. I'd watch some little Matt Fraser documentaries, and just watching his day in the life is incredible. Like, it's dialed in and so regimented, and I think there's a lot of good positive things to take out of that as an athlete or as a hockey player. And that's kind of what got me into it. So I mean, on my gear I have Matt Fraser's little tagline, HWPO, hard work pays off. And he's kind of a guy I look up to, I guess, in a sense, just as an athlete and as a person. And the way he takes care of his body, and obviously he's done some pretty incredible things in his space. So it's really motivating for me. Obviously, we're in two different fields, but a lot of the same principles apply. And whether it's just daily routines or whatever little thing it might be, it's definitely somebody for me to look up to. So that's how I got into that.
Well, he's gonna be the next Matt Frazier after your career comes to a close.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe.
Yeah, that's awesome though, and like a great role model to have, especially like when you're going into CrossFit and like just being like an athlete and like just performance and all that. Like that's a great role model, and just like learn everything you do from him, and especially like in two different fields. Like you can definitely like cross paths with that a little bit.
Exactly. I agree. So it's definitely something, just to motivate you and to kind of keep you going. I know, like I told you, I have the home gym here, so I'll go out there and I'll work out. I'll throw on some Matt Fraser videos, and it's cool. It gets you hyped up, and he's a machine. So it's definitely a good guy to look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to get into your junior career a little bit here. You played 4 years for the Peterborough Petes in the Ontario Hockey League in the OHL. So like what went into like the process of signing in Peterborough and like playing 4 years there?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously before that I was playing minor hockey, and I had a kind of an interesting path coming up through minor hockey. I didn't really start playing hockey till I was about 8. My dad's actually a drummer, so I grew up playing the drums, and I kind of come from a musical family. I still play the drums, I play the guitar, and it's kind of my second passion or third passion, I guess. Hockey, strength and conditioning, and music. Um, so I grew up in a music family. I played house league hockey, I played single A hockey, double A, and then I finally played triple A a little later in my career. But I'd been cut from the triple A team a bunch of times. I didn't really know if this is something that I could actually pursue. And then I finally made the AAA team in Bantam and was lucky to have some really good coaches there. And my game just grew, exponentially throughout the 3 years that I played AAA. And I wound up getting drafted by Peterborough in the second round. I was the first goalie picked. I went 21st overall to them, which was obviously a really, really special opportunity. And I knew I was valued by them. So I went in and played my first year junior as 15 or 16-year-old, whatever it was at the time, and played my 4 years there, and had heard nothing but good things about it before I went there. The team, the organization, the city. That's obviously a really storied franchise. They've been around forever. So, I mean, for me, I knew what I was kind of walking into and getting myself into. And then, that was really, from 15 to 20 years old, you do a lot of growing up in that time. And I think, playing junior hockey at that level helped me mature a ton. For a 16-year-old, you're living away from home, you're living away from your friends, you're making a lot of sacrifices. But I mean, for me, I was doing what I love to do. And obviously, with the end goal being to play in the NHL one day, it was kind of the biggest stepping stone along the way. So, I mean, it was a great opportunity. The league was awesome. It's still filled with talent every year. And I wouldn't trade my experience in Peterborough for anything. It was great.
Yeah, so then you go into training camp, you make the team out of camp, you go into your first year of junior hockey, and like junior hockey, like you have to like it's a big learning curve, especially like those first few years. You played 27 games, which is a lot for a first year guy in juniors. Like what was that experience like, especially like things didn't go as great as I would sure you'd hope for. So like what was that like experience like, especially since like it is a learning curve?
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. Like you're 15 years old at the time. There's guys there who are 20 and 21, and at the time they seemed like they're a lot older than you. I remember walking into my first camp, and I was pretty baby faced at the time and pretty wide eyed, looking around, a little nervous to introduce myself to everybody. And I mean, it's intimidating for sure. Obviously, like it's a different style of hockey than playing midget hockey, and it took some time to get used to. Obviously, shots are quicker, plays develop faster. And, like I said, originally, there's not many 15, 16-year-olds in the league at the time. So, I mean, we had 3 of them on our team, and, there's a few scattered throughout the league, but, you weren't really, I was a young guy. So it was tough. And I got to play a lot of games actually for a 15-year-old, which was great. And, got quite a few starts, and obviously there's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows. I think that's kind of comes with age, the consistency factor of that, learning to manage the highs and manage the lows, and kind of staying that even keel and playing consistently. So I mean, the opportunity was great. The experience as a whole was good. Obviously, the numbers weren't unbelievable or jumping off the charts, but as a whole, I think I played pretty solid that year and got my feet wet in junior hockey and gained some confidence, got more comfortable. I played U17s that year, and then obviously for the under 18 team that summer. So I mean, there's a lot of hockey being played throughout those few years, and yeah, it was like everything else. It's been a great experience.
Yeah, so like how do you manage like all those ups and downs, like when you just got to stay even keel, like especially like learning from what you've learned throughout your career so far and just being able to just stay even keel, since it is such an important part as a goaltender, because you don't want to be too high or too low and just get over anxious or anything like that.
Yeah, I think for me that was something that took a lot of time to learn. I think when I was younger, I mean, it's easy to beat yourself up when you're going through a low point or when you're struggling.
Yeah.
It's it's easy to look at the flaws and what's going wrong. And sometimes you feel sorry for yourself, and it's almost like a why me. And I think as I've gotten older here, I mean, obviously from junior, I played 4 years of junior and 4 years of pro. Now you kind of learn how to manage things like that a little better. Um, when you start to look at things as happening for you rather than to you, it shifts your mindset and it makes things a lot easier. So whether it's anything good, anything bad, if you can kind of shift that mindset and look at it like it's happening for you and it's helping you along the way, I mean, that's where you find some consistency, and that's where you find the growth. So I mean, that's kind of the approach I've took over the past couple of years. I have a saying on the back of my helmet. It's a Latin phrase. It's amor fati. It means the love of fate, and that's kind of the mindset I've taken, to everything, whether it's hockey,
Yeah.
life, family, relationships, whatever it may be. It's just looking at every situation as if that's what you wanted to happen. You don't just accept it, but you love it, and you kind of make the best of it. So it could be a night where you let in 4 goals and you get pulled. Like, good, you go and you're gonna learn from it, and you're gonna bounce back and play well the next night. So I'd say that's helped with managing the highs and lows. And then honestly, balance too has been a big thing for me, just balancing life away from the rink. Like I said, I like to take care of my body. I pride myself on being prepared and being dialed in, but I think there's also a time where you gotta just unwind and relax a little bit and kind of enjoy some time away from the rink, and do things that you would do as a 24-year-old, whether that's going for dinner with your buddies or going to play golf, and just finding things to kind of get your mind off the game for a little bit. I think that was good for me this year. Obviously living in Virginia Beach, it was a good spot. There's opportunities to go play golf or go to the beach, or just not be thinking about hockey 24/7, and that kind of helps you just reset and really look forward to going to the rink the next day. And that's been good for me. So that's with playing so many games this year, I think the balance is huge, and you do
Yeah.
have to disconnect from the rink a little bit. If you're all hockey all the time, it might become a little bit easier to burn out. So learning how to balance that this year was huge. I think obviously as a young guy, you want to put a lot on your plate, and it's go 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 all the time. And that's kind of one thing I learned this year was just it's okay to take some
Yeah.
time off. Like obviously it's not it's not going to harm you. You got to learn to find some things away from the rink that make you happy, and kind of fill yourself up with some good vibes away from the rink.
Yeah, definitely. And like the balance of life and hockey and everything in between is super important. Like just learning everything you have. Like I was saying where I don't lose, I always learn. Because like when you do lose those games, like you're always learning from like your mistakes and what you could have done better and stuff like that. And just it brings like your mindset into a whole different thing where you're not like down on yourself, but or you are a little bit down on yourself because you lost, but like you're also taking what you experienced and learning from them.
Exactly. Exactly. It's always an opportunity to learn no matter the situation. And I think it's really about perspective and, having that big picture mindset
Yeah.
where, you're always learning, and everything that's happening to you is happening for you and it's working for you. And I mean, if you can recognize that and kind of harness it, that's where true growth comes from.
Yeah, exactly. It's like throughout like your years and juniors from year 1 to year 4, like there's been a lot of growth like you've been talking about. Like what has that growth and development been like for you, and just from experiencing what you experienced in juniors to help develop into that professional goaltender that you are today?
Yeah, I think every year you start to become a little bit more well-rounded. I think you start to kind of mature in all areas,
Yeah.
whether it's on the ice, off the ice. little things like your nutrition, your recovery, I think you really start to find what works for you and what doesn't. So I think, through my years of junior, my years of pro so far, I'm learning every year what works for me in terms of my game and what's going to allow me to play consistently and have the most success. And like I said earlier, a lot of it is, simplifying things.
Yeah.
I know that I can have confidence in the preparation I put into it. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that, I stay true to, and that's things like my preparation, my recovery, my sleep, nutrition. And then this year, a lot of it was, balancing playing a ton of games and then recovering away from the rink. So, I mean, that's where, I picked up different hobbies and stuff to do away from the rink. I started playing the guitar this year. So, it was something that I could go home from the rink and, I could just chill, but it was also something to do and get my mind off everything. So that was big for the mental side of it. And I mean, I'm always working on my mental game. I know we were talking earlier a little bit about meditation and journaling, and I've played around with it for the past probably 7 or 8 years now, and I love it. I keep a post game journal. I've kept one since junior. I keep a gratitude journal. I'm big into meditation. Again, I started that when I was probably in grade 10, started diving into it and playing around with it a bit, and it's become a pretty consistent thing now. So, I mean, you just, like I said, yeah, like with experience, you just start to learn more and more what works for you and what makes you tick, because everybody's so different. And,
Yeah.
everybody finds success in different ways. And, something that works for me might not work for you. And something that works for you might not work for me. So it's tempting to see everybody doing something and, want to jump in on the trend or dive in on it. But if it doesn't work for you and it's not going to benefit you, then, that's where you really have to be mature and, find what works for you. So
Yeah.
that's
So yeah. So like what are like the biggest aspects that you get from like when you journal, when you have that gratitude journal, and just meditating as well? Like there's a lot of like research that goes into all this, and like there's a lot of like information that like it like helps you like stay in contact with your goals and everything. So like do you see that, and like where like the aspects of that?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, with the journaling, obviously the gratitude journal has been super helpful for me. I mean, it refreshes your perspective, every time you're doing it. You could come, out of the rink and think you're having a bad day, and you go and, you really sit down and think about some things you're grateful for, and it kind of opens your eyes. It's, things really aren't that bad. And
Yeah.
that kind of helps, like we talked about earlier, just, managing the balance away from the rink and managing those highs and lows. So, I mean, it's obviously happiness is another big one too. I mean, you're looking at things you're grateful for, and perspective, happiness. I mean, and then for me, it just keeps me dialed in, keeps me focused. I can write it down. It's consistent. It's a habit for me. I read the book Atomic Habits, and that was one of the things I have it stacked. So it was, in the morning I shower. Obviously, I usually try to cold shower, and then I was like, well, I want to get consistent with my journaling, my meditating. So it was one of those things where I stacked on top of each other. And, right after I shower, it's usually meditate, journal. So, I mean, all those things have helped me. The meditation has been huge. I mean, going back to junior, I started meditating pregame, probably when I was in my second year of junior. And I found it just kind of helped to, calm like calm my mind down a little bit, like find some stillness before the game and just not have those racing thoughts. And for me now, it's a lot of just like silent meditation, whether it's 10, 20, 30 minutes, and you're just kind of noticing thoughts. I've gotten a lot better at noticing when, negative thoughts are creeping in, and learning to diffuse them or replace them with something different. And I think it just renews a sense of calm in your daily life. I would say I'm a pretty laid back person already, but I mean, it just kind of helps you be aware of what's going on and really stay in the present. So obviously as a goalie, that's, one of the most important parts is just being present and, being where your feet are. So that's really a saying that I use a lot with my mental performance coach, is be where your feet are. And I think through meditation, there's no better example of being where your feet are. So
Yeah, and it all like renews you, and like when you're done meditating, like you feel so much better, and like especially like if you have a lot of stress, like after, like you can tell like the weight is lifted off your shoulders, and like it just, and like you have like goals in mind and just what you want to achieve throughout the day, as not even at the rink but like outside of the rink, and it's just an awesome tool to have as well.
exactly, I completely agree.
Yeah, but then your third year when during juniors is where you really like tore up the league, where you went 33, 15 and 4. and you went 8-3-1 in the playoffs. Like, what was that third year like for you personally, and like starting to get back on track and putting and like having like really good numbers as well?
Yeah, obviously the third year was a really good year, personally and as a team. I think it's usually kind of goes hand in hand when the team has some success. Like you find your personal success. I know
Yeah.
it's repeated all the time, but that was an example of that for sure. I think that summer, it was after the draft. I mean, I struggled in my draft year a lot. I think that was my first kind of season really dealing with high expectations, obviously coming off winning gold at the under 18s. Like my goalie partner at the time was Carter Hart, and we had a really good team. We won the tournament. Going into the year, obviously wanted to get drafted super high, wanted to play a ton of games, and you know that was a tough year looking back at it. But like we said, like I learned from it, and there was a lot to take out of it,
Yeah.
and that's really when I started to dial in on my prep work and my recovery work, and finding different ways to better myself away from the rink and at the rink. So going into that third year was, that summer I really bared down, and that's when I just, started dialing everything in, all aspects of my game. And I went into that season with a lot of confidence, and obviously got a great opportunity to play a ton of games with a really good team, and found the success. So that was, the first big step in my junior career. And obviously at the end of that year, I was able to sign with Edmonton, which was a big achievement for me and for my family. So I mean, yeah, that year was great, and I mean, it was a huge step in my career.
Yeah, and like that is, and like just like going through, because like you do have those high expectations for yourself, and like the outside voices as well come into play. So like, how do you manage, like, is it like a lot of like mental stuff, like how you manage that stress of just having those high expectations, and then what everyone else, like you're getting watched by NHL teams, and just like having like that nervous and like that anxiety, and just everything just spirals. Like, how do you keep that in check?
Yeah, well, I think looking back on it, I mean, going back to my second year and talking about it from my perspective then, I think I was really trying to take control of a lot of things that were
Yeah.
outside of my control. Obviously, now being a little bit older, you realize the things that are in your control. I call it a control box or control circle, whatever you want. Um, Looking back, I was taking a lot of things from outside of that control circle and really trying to, grab a hold of them, whether it was like, not playing a lot or not getting a start when I thought I should. Like I would let those things weigh on me and I'd be upset or frustrated over it. And obviously those are out of your control. So now, having been through those experiences and learning how to handle them a little better, you really realize that, taking control of everything that's in your power is what's going to make you successful. So for me, that's where, the real dedication to all the little things outside of the rink came into play. Cause all those things, I mean, sleeping at a reasonable time and getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, that's fully in your control. Your nutrition and making sure your meals are ready to go, that's in your control. Your training, your preparation, your recovery from practice, your warm-ups before, all those things are in your control box. And I mean, for me, when I started to really just grab hold of things that I can control was when I started to find some confidence and some more like just you're not worrying about what other people are thinking. You're not worrying about what's going on around you. You're just doing your thing, and you're taking care of the controllables.
Yeah, and like that's a lot of like what I think goalies like struggle with is controlling what they can control, because you have such high expectations for yourself, like everyone does, but like you just gotta really zone in on those controllables. Like the uncontrollables you have no control over. That's why they're called uncontrollables. But like just having like sleep schedule, like good nutrition, like those are things you can't control, like you said. And like those are definitely gonna bring confidence to you, especially when it comes game time and you need that energy, it's gonna come.
Exactly. And I think talking about preparation, I think like every goalie who's playing pro hockey is an elite goalie. Everybody
Yeah.
can stop the puck. It's what's got them there. So everybody, the playing field's pretty even. You're really looking for those little things that are going to separate you, those separator skills that can bring you to that 1% better. And they're tough to find because everybody playing. I mean, if you look at American League goalies, everybody's doing the same training, everybody's skating, everybody's working out. You really got to find those little edges where you can and grab hold of them, especially when they're in your control, and just optimize them. And I think that's a separator skill, and that's kind of how you can try to start to make the jump to the next levels and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. And like just having like those controllables, like you said, going into that fourth year, especially like when you're signing with Edmonton and all that, like what was that final year of juniors like, especially like with everything that's happened with signing with the Oilers and just being able to just tune out like that other stuff that you just need to focus on your game because you did have a big workload that year as well, playing 56 games.
For sure, yeah, I had a big workload that year. I think, looking back on it, is another year where I didn't play great. It was a little bit of a roller coaster through junior. I had a little bit of a good year, struggled a bit, had a really good year, and then had some struggles as well. So I think a lot of that was, just learning for me and learning
Yeah.
through different experiences. Every year was a lot different. I had some really good teams, some teams that struggled, and for me as a younger guy at the time, being, I mean, I'm still a young guy now, but being 20 or 19 that year, I mean, it was tough. And when the team's struggling a bit, you start grasping for some uncontrollables, and you're trying to do a little bit too much sometimes, maybe, and you're putting too much into it. So that was a year where I could have probably used a little bit more balance. I really like put a lot into my game, and the results weren't necessarily coming like they did the year before, and it was frustrating, and it was a bit of a mental grind at times. But I mean, looking back on it now, I mean, it's shaped me into who I am now, and I was able to learn from it. But yeah, it's just you put a lot of expectations on yourself, and you're reaching for things that are outside your control, and that's where the struggles begin. So I mean, there was some highs, there was some lows that year. As a whole, it wasn't my best, but I got to learn a lot from it, so I'm grateful for it still.
Yeah, and you're gonna face adversity every single year you play. So you just gotta do whatever you can to control what you can control and just think about just how grateful you are to play because you're playing the greatest sport in the world and you have a job there too. So like you gotta stop the puck.
Exactly. At the end of the day, when you look at it, I get to play hockey for a living, and
Yeah.
we do it every day. So, I mean, whether you're having a hard day on the ice or a hard day in the gym, it's still, couldn't ask for a better job. So I'm very lucky to do what I do, and I think that kind of helps instill the perspective into my game. I could be doing a lot of different things, and
Yeah.
hockey's what I love to do. Hockey's what I want to do. So, you know, it's always a good day at the rink.
Yeah, and while also playing junior hockey, you got to represent your home country in Canada with playing U17's World Hockey Championship. So what was that experience like, especially like being able to represent your home country?
Yeah, it was cool. Obviously, dream come true. Like every kid grows up. I know here in Canada, watching the World Juniors, and watching everybody wearing the Canadian sweater, and you dream to one day put it on yourself. I mean, like I grew up, we'd always be wearing Team Canada jerseys on the pond, or wherever we were playing, pickup hockey, whatever it might be. And when I first got that opportunity to do that at the under 17s, it was awesome. I mean, I was lucky enough to do it twice there and at the under 18s, and you get to play with some unbelievable players, and make some great friends along the way. I know, like I was goalie partners with Carter Hart at under 18s, and he's one of my good buddies today still. So, I mean, you make connections and relationships that last a long time, and it's an experience you look back on forever. Got to go to Europe that summer, and we played in the Czech Republic, and like I said, we won gold there. So I still remember it like it was yesterday, and it was probably 6 years ago. So it was a great experience, and something I'll never forget.
Yeah, what was that feeling when when you guys won the gold and you're putting on the medal and just being able to like you went throughout a whole couple weeks, couple like a month just playing internationally in Europe and just being able to win that gold medal?
It was cool. The experience was great. It was a different experience. Obviously, that was my first time going to Europe. So I remember we had a flight. It was all through the night, and the guys are trying to sleep on the plane. And obviously, it was coming right out of selection camp, which was a grind of a camp. And you're trying to make the team still. So there was 4 goalies there at the time, and then once they picked the team, you're basically hopping on the plane and leaving to go to the tournament. So I remember we got there. It was in August. It was super hot. It was my first time there. It was really cool being in Europe, and I mean, at the same time, your surroundings are a little different, but you find a way to dial in. And I mean, nothing really changes. Your goal is still going out there and stopping pucks, and you can't really break away from that too much. So, I mean, it was a cool experience outside the rink, but then once we were at the rink, it was time to go to work, and the team came together, and obviously we were fortunate enough to win it, but just the experience leading up to it, the prep work we put into it, and that team really bonded and was really close. And I think that's what led to the success that we had. But it was obviously a lot of fun and a dream come true for me too. So it was great.
Yeah, and you're facing the best in the world all over the place in every country that's represented. So like, what was it like to play internationally, especially like in Europe?
It was cool. I mean, obviously the big ice is different, and the fan section is cool too. It kind of feels like a soccer game at times. I think the game where we did play the Czech Republic was probably the most packed, that or the gold medal game too. But when we did play the Czech Republic, obviously they were the home country, and their fans are going for them, so it was pretty loud in there. And it was a Friday night, if I can remember, and it was definitely a great experience. So I mean, I look back on that, and you can't help but smile because it was a lot of good memories and a lot of good people there. So you're playing against the best players in the world, and I mean everybody's kind of coming together for one tournament. So it was great.
How was the jet lag? I'm guessing that was brutal.
It was tough. Yeah, it was my first time dealing with it. So I was 18 at the time. It was my first time, and it was a little bit weird, but we made do, and recovered and got ready to go. And then once the tournament started, we were fresh, and the boys were flying.
Yeah, and you guys go on to win gold, and like you dream of that, especially like as a Canadian, like you always dream of that, wearing the maple leaf, and then just being able to win it like that. There's no better feeling than that.
Exactly. Yeah, words can't really describe it. Obviously, like, I still have the medal now, and I mean the opportunity was great, but it was something I'll remember forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a few more questions before you wrap things up here. So do you have any tips for goaltenders looking to get to that next level, whether it be youth to juniors to college, or juniors to pro, college to pro?
Yeah, I think I would go back to what I touched on earlier about just really taking control of the things that are in your control circle or your control box. I think it's easy for them to be overlooked sometimes. They might not be the most glamorous ways of improvement or the trendy thing to do. Having a bedtime, things like that. But I think that's really the most important. The little details truly do matter, and I think when you learn to take hold of those, whether it's like your nutrition, your sleep, your recovery, your workouts, all the little things that are going to make you 1% better really add up over a long period of time. So if you can find some consistency in those things and really take hold of that and run with it, I think it'll help a lot of people find some success.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great tip, especially like when you're going up the levels. Like everyone wants to be there right away, but it takes time, and just you have to get all these different tools in your toolbox to succeed at that level.
It is, and I think moving up any level, whether it's college to pro, junior to pro, minor hockey to college or junior, I mean it's a process for sure. Like you just said, it's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be adversity along the way. There's going to be ups and downs, and I think when you can learn to deal with those things and manage them in the appropriate way, I think that's when you start to really grow your game and grow as a person, and that allows for some confidence and some consistency. So I think really learning to manage situations, and like I just said, taking control of what you can is what's going to help you take the next step.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree with you there. And the next question is there any significance behind like the numbers you wear, like 33, 30? Like, is there any significance behind them?
Well, so 30 I got when I went to Peterborough. It honestly didn't have much significance to me. I was a huge Marty Brodeur fan growing up, so I did love the number 30. I wore it a bit in minor hockey and whatnot, but I wore 30 in Peterborough for 4 years, and then when I got to Bakersfield, I kind of wanted to switch it up and wear something different, and I wore 39. There's really no reason for that. I thought it looked cool and I liked it, and then this year wearing 33, it was just what was given to me, so I just took it. It wasn't really a choice, but I mean, 3 is my favorite number, so really anything with a 3 in it, I'm happy. And having double threes this year was good luck for me. So I mean, 2 of my favorite numbers.
Yeah,
It's easy. So
yeah, that's awesome. Like we learned your favorite number now, 3. So 33 works perfectly with that.
that's it. Yeah, I wish I had some cool story to tell you about why I wear the numbers I do, but it's usually just what's given to me.
Yeah, so Stan calls you Tiger Wells, and then Michael Bully has a question. He said, how are you so amazingly good at golf?
I think those are some high praises. Um, I'd say I'm an avid golfer. I wouldn't say I'm an amazing golfer. I did grow up playing a lot of junior golf. That was my summer sport. I played in tournaments and whatnot growing up, and I've always had a passion for the game. I love it. It's kind of, my getaway from the rink, especially early in the summer and the off season. It's kind of something that I can put everything into and work at to really get better and practice. So I know early in the summers in the off season, I'll go to the course and you know sometimes I won't even be playing. I'll be there hitting balls or I'll be chipping and putting. I'll bring the headphones out there and really dial it in. So yeah, I play a lot of golf. The course I'm a member at here is pretty close to my house, and a lot of my buddies are members there too. So I get out whenever I can. I probably have 80 rounds under my belt this year. So, I mean, I put a lot of work into my game, so I've gotten a lot better over the years. But yeah, Tiger Wells and me being an amazingly good golfer is some high praises, but I'll take them.
Yeah, there's nothing better than go to the links right after practice and hit some golf balls, play around. Like there's nothing better.
Exactly, exactly. We did a lot of that this past season with Chicago, so it was a
That
good mover for golf.
that's unreal. But Wellsy, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to following your career the rest of the way, and hopefully seeing some games in Chicago and in Rockford this year.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much for having me on. It was a pleasure.